So I want to use this video to emphasize what was said in the last slide because it really brings home the main point of this slideshow, which is that the Industrial Revolution contributed to the start of World War I because it required that other countries look elsewhere for raw materials to use in their factories. And when they looked elsewhere, what they did was they went into other countries and took them over. They annexed other countries, they annexed other colonies and other territories, and they did that in order to acquire and more easily access the goods that were in those other countries. And so as you can imagine, when one country takes over another country, well, this leads to a lot of tension between those countries. It also leads to a lot of tension, between other industrialized countries. So there were other countries at this time, as you saw in the slideshow, that were becoming industrialized. They were building factories and they were manufacturing more and more goods. They were becoming more modern. And these other countries, well, they wanted the same resources from these other places. So there was some tension going on. There was some competition for resources going on, which would eventually increase. These tensions would increase and would eventually lead to World War I. Now, some of these materials that were needed for these factories were coal, iron, oil, and wool. These were some of the materials that were needed in order to run the factories or in order to produce the items that the factories produced. And as I said, a lot of these industrialized countries already had these materials on their land, but they also looked elsewhere for these materials. And that's what contributed to the conflict, which would later break out. And it's what increased the tensions between all of these other countries. Okay. I also want to make sure that you pay attention to some of the countries that were involved in the first and the second Industrial Revolution, because many of these countries will be the ones that actually become involved in war. They'll actually be members of the conflict in World War I. So that's sort of an important point to make, where it almost all started really with this Industrial Revolution. It started with these countries becoming more centers of manufacturing, which led to these countries becoming richer and more powerful, and which also led to these countries acquiring other territories, which led to tensions and conflicts. So there were many factors that contributed to the start of World War I, but I think that a lot of historians could argue that the Industrial Revolution was essentially the start of the mounting steps that actually built up to all-out World War. So what I want you to do now is I want you to go ahead and go to the next video. There's one more video posted on this slideshow that gives sort of a general overview of the Industrial Revolution, and it presents more information than I presented in this slideshow. And then what I want you to do is I want you to access the Google Doc that I posted. I posted an assignment that contains questions, and answer the questions on that Google Doc. It's posted to your classroom page as an assignment, and then you're done. Be sure to contact me if you have any questions at all. If you have any trouble with the worksheet, any questions at all, be sure to contact me. All right, so go ahead and move over to the next video now and check that out.